In the early years of Monster Hunter, the Schrade Kingdom, once an impenetrable fortress of stone and steel, a bastion clad in towering walls bristling with dragonators, crowned with spires that pierced the heavens. It stood as a testament, proud to the industry and ambition of mankind. Yet in a single night, it was razed, consumed by fire, and wiped from history. And Schrade was no isolated tragedy. The tower, the citadel, even the relics buried in the Frost Islands, all whispers of thriving, technologically advanced societies reduced to ruin. Where once stood cities of brilliance, now lie only rubble and cinder. So, what was their undoing? What force was so absolute it could erase kingdoms, topple towers, and silence entire civilizations in a single night when monsters erased civilizations? Let's talk about the ancient civilizations first. Many ancient civilizations thrived in the world of Monster Hunter, and I'm not talking about crude tribes chasing aptonauts with spears. These were advanced societies, whose weapons and armors eclipse much of what we wield today. Relics so sophisticated that the guild admits they're mostly restored echoes of a lost age. Take the Archen armor set. Its in-game description says it's restored from ancient blueprints. In other words, we're not talking about fresh innovations. We're talking about piecing together technology so old we barely understand it. Then there are the rusted weapons you dig up in volcanic and tundra mining zones, weathered by time but still powerful once restored by a skilled blacksmith. Even relics like the rusted hammer carry lines like an ancient military hammer. Restored, its inner core of Dragon's breath still burns. These aren't ornamental trophies. They are surviving tools of empires, hints of a time when rulers wielded dragon energy like a knight would carry a sword. This wasn't a single kingdom either. Across the world are fragments of distinct cultures. The Tower, the Frost Islands, the Flooded Forest, the Ancestral Steppe, the Everwoods, and much more. It's worth noting that the remnants of these civilizations reveal echoes of advanced societies, including cultures, religion, and military. In the Everwood, you'll find moss-veiled ruins and stone walls overtaken by roots. In the Ancestral Steppe, crumbling temples and shrines stand like ghosts of a once proud religion. In the northern part of the Flooded Forest lies a ziggurat-style temple with carved faces, staircases to nowhere, and iconography of long-forgotten gods or kings who we never will or have ever known. One especially striking relic, north of the Frost Islands lies a dragon skull impaled what looks like a dragonator. In relic records entries in verse 1320, we see mention of powerful weapons and even ancient warships. Another monument to the ancient civilization's power and ingenuity is the tower. This tall edifice is said to be built using remnants of Elder Dragon Kushala Daora. The fact that mining nodes inside yields decayed dragon scales seems more than a coincidence. It hints at a civilization that didn't just coexist with dragons, but intentionally fought or harvested or even slew them. But more on that later. The burning question therefore is, How did these culturally and technologically advanced civilizations vanish so abruptly? Monster Hunter fans have long debated the possible answer to this question. Famine, pestilence, hubris, weapons gone wrong, all are possible. But if you consider the lore, relics, and evidence that have been left behind by the ancients, one answer rises above all other possibilities. And that answer is the Great Dragon War. Before we can unravel the Great Dragon War, we need to understand the dragons themselves. In Monster Hunter, Elder Dragons and Black Dragons aren't normal monsters. They are living natural disasters. Fatalis, Miralis, Alatreon, Kushala Daora, each one reshapes or annihilates entire ecosystems simply by existing. The old Dragon War ended in silence, and the silence is the point. Whole civilizations may have been erased so thoroughly that their history were burned away with their people. What remains are ruins, relics, and whispers. Take Fatalis. The guild's records and the Monster Hunter For You intro describe it as the destroyer of Schrade Kingdom. Legend says the capital was burned to ashes in a single night, its towers melted into slag. And while this, in the world of Monster Hunter, is only legend, we as the player know this to be nothing more than the truth. Even more chilling, survivors who forged armor from Fatalis claim to hear voices, as if the dragon itself lingered inside its scales, mocking their hubris. But it isn't alone. Elder dragons as a whole are extinction events. Kushala Daora summons endless storms that can collapse trade routes and bury farmland. Theostra spreads firestorms that can reduce entire landscapes to cinders. Chameleos twists perception itself, breeding mistrust and undermining human order. And Nergigante devours other elder dragons, a brutal balancing act that leaves ruin behind. And then there are the Black Dragons, the guild's most forbidden category. These are elder dragons considered so catastrophic that their existence is nearly classified as legends. Alatreon can shift between fire, ice, thunder and dragon element, overwhelming ecosystems in every direction. Diamiralis, a volcanic leviathan, has caused eruptions and total cataclysms capable of wiping out entire settlements. White and Crimson Fatalis expand the original myth, each variant carrying the same promise of annihilation. Monsters like Shagaru and Gore Magala take this even further, spreading the so-called Frenzy Virus, a plague that corrupts life until ecosystems collapse. Disasters in this world aren't accidents, they are the monsters that we hunt. Every storm, plague or eruption has a face and wings. No wonder civilizations armed themselves with dragonators, siege engines and relic weapons infused with dragon's breath. They weren't just hunting, they were fighting to keep their world from being erased. And yet, despite their towers and warships, the ruins tell the truth. Humanity never won. The guild itself exists out of fear, not victory. A fragile compromise, born from acknowledging that mankind has always lived in the shadow of monsters. Yet, the overwhelming strength and ability of dragons do not readily explain how abruptly all ancient human civilizations seem to go extinct. As a matter of fact, structures like the Tower and Frost Island's Imperial Dragon Skull are proof that mankind could, at one time, go toe-to-claw with the Elder Dragons. At some point, the relationship between these proto-civilizations and dragons must have soured. The relics suggest that humans didn't just fear dragons, they harvested from them, weaponizing their materials, and probably tried to bend their power to their ends. Like previously discussed, the Archen armor set is just restored from ancient blueprints, meaning the craftsmen reverse engineered these technologies. The rusted weapons, once mining relics, often carry inscriptions that tell us about its purpose. And let's not forget the mining nodes in structures like the tower, dropping decayed dragon scales and scales of elder dragons. Those hint that buildings were literally built with dragon material embedded in their walls, probably either as protection or as a sign of worship. Now, I'm no Sherlock Holmes, but in my opinion, this is just a little too much coincidence. During this time, where the trend of killing elder dragons grew, skirmishes must have become inevitable. Perhaps early conflicts were just localized, raiding dragon nests, stealing materials, and angering dragon guardians. However, over time, the scales of conflict escalated. The dragons must have retaliated and humans escalated. And those lines are now blurred. I mean, eventually, war was unavoidable. When your enemy is capable of burning your cities from orbit, your only options are appeasement or total war. Nothing in between. Thus, mankind needed an equalizer, something to bridge the gap and even the odds. This would either be their greatest creation or their foulest abomination. And that equalizer was the E.D.W, or as we know it, the Equal Dragon Weapon. The Equal Dragon Weapon was a creature like no other, a half dragon, half machine, an amalgam of flesh and metal, ambition and hubris. Mankind's final trump card in the ancient race to level the playing field against elder dragons. The E.D.W was crafted from the corpses of multiple elder dragons, combining their parts within a steel carapace. Its purpose? A super soldier or guardian built to fight the dragons directly, presumably because conventional arms were insufficient at this point. If true, the existence of the E.D.W suggests that these proto-civilizations went from harvesting dragon parts to weaponizing them, essentially creating abominations to scale with their adversaries. Unfortunately, Capcom has yet to officially canonize the E.D.W as a whole, and the only scrap of proof that we have of its existence is the concept art of the tortured creature. However, if we analyze it more closely, even if what it said isn't canon yet, the E.D.W is stated to be made out of elder dragon parts, which at this point should ring the alarm bells and probably should tell us that even if it was never meant to be canon, it was definitely this theory that made its existence even valid in the first place. And just maybe, if what Zoshia is telling us is the truth, then the E.D.W might have been the main cause for some of the ancient civilizations to go extinct in the first place. Now that we have pondered over what exactly are the dragons themselves and the E.D.W, let's start with the actual theory about the Great Dragon War. To our knowledge, the Great Dragon War was likely the most cataclysmic and earth-shattering conflict in all of Monster Hunter history. Though the Elder Dragons were powerful adversaries, the Ancients were by no means pushovers. And to fully understand what the war was truly like, we must picture the world that we know right now where humanity was not yet broken. The ruins scattered across the world, like Castle Schrade, the Tower, and the Frost Islands. All of them whisper the same truth. The ancients were not mere villagers in hiding. They were empire builders, armed with ingenuity, hubris, and weapons meant to challenge their gods. But in all likelihood, none of the ancients' weapons would have been enough to overcome a concentrated Elder Dragon assault. I mean, Fatalis was powerful enough to raise countless strongholds to ash. Though the battles and skirmishes leading up to the ultimate conflict might have been short-lived and unpredictable, the actual war would have likely have been very, very swift. The guild records speak only in fragments, but each fragment tells us of devastation. Fatalis is remembered as the shadow that fell on Schrade, and this tale claims its firestorms reduced a kingdom to molten ruin in a single night, a feat that, as we know, it is very, very capable of. And yet, Schrade was no fragile village. It was a fortress city bristling with dragonators, towers and relic weapons, specifically designed for dragon slaying. The fact that it fell so completely, quietly and quickly speaks not only to Fatalis' power, but to the scale of the conflict. This wasn't a single dragon attack, it couldn't have been. Maybe it was multiple Elder Dragons. An Elatrion shifting elements at will was less a creature and more of an apocalypse with wings. Diamiralis could have buoyed the seas and sent molten tsunamis crashing onto coastal settlements. Kushala Daora might have erased trade networks with endless storms. These assaults would never have been isolated disasters. They would have been coordinated catastrophes, striking at the infrastructure that held civilizations together. The only thing that we truly know is that in the end, the Elder Dragons were the victorious ones, not the civilizations that came before ours. What we are left with today are ruins, myths, and warnings. Every map tells the same story. The Frost Islands are littered with relic records of warship and dragonators, their bones still jutting from the cliff. The flooded forest hides ziggurat temples, staircases leading nowhere, and sunken shrines that once served bustling cities. The Everwood is a graveyard of stone arcs, smothered by moss, entire cultures swallowed by roots. And the tower looms as both a monument and a tomb. A reminder that the ancients once thought they could build their future on the backs of dragons. The guild itself exists out of fear. It wasn't founded in triumph, but in compromise. A human admission that at best we coexist beneath the monsters. Hunters today don't stand on equal footing with Elder Dragons. They pick through the bones of a dozen lost civilizations and fight the survivors of the old war, hoping to hold the line just a little longer. Some hunters even say the very world of Monster Hunter is built in the aftermath of repeated apocalypse. What we call the present is just the latest age of recovery after the dragons reset the balance again and again. In conclusion, the Great Dragon War isn't a neat entry in the guild's codex. It's a fragment of a history that was burned away erased alongside the people who lived it. Castle Schrade, the tower, the flooded forest, the frost islands, all of them are gravestones for empires that thought they could master the monsters. And maybe in the end, that was the lesson. Elder Dragons aren't enemies to defeat, but calamities to survive. Fatalis didn't just burn Schrade, it burned away the illusion that humanity was ever in control. Were the Black Dragons nature's answer to mankind's pride? Were they simply beasts defending their world? Or did humanity invite its own destruction by harvesting dragon scales, building dragonators, and creating weapons like the E.D.W? The truth is buried in ruins, scattered in relics, and whispered in armor that still mocks those who wear it. What we do know is this: civilizations did rise, and monsters did erase them. And every time you might walk through the ruins of the tower, or stand before the colossal skull in the Frost Islands, you are standing in the shadow of that war. A war humanity lost. And though their lofty cities and kingdoms may be gone, the one relic, the tower, which they built with dragon scales, still stands proud. One last defiant middle finger to the elder dragons that erased them.